So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord and have 7 priests carry trumpets in the front of it." And he ordered the people, "Advance, march around the city with the armed guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord." When Joshua had spoken to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward, blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. The armed guard marched ahead of the priests who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard followed the ark. All this time the trumpets were sounding. But Joshua had commanded the people, "Do not give a war cry, do not raise your voices. Do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout. Then shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. Then the people returned to camp and spent the night there. Just think. So nation going to war against another nation, and the Lord's giving them specific instructions because He's going to show His glory, and He does that sometimes. He tells us to be prepared and be ready for a battle that He's already won, that He's already done for us. And also thinking about it, how would it feel or what it would look like to see a group of people marching around your city, and not saying anything, but you see something that's they're carrying in front of them, and then you see trumpets blasting. How would the people react to seeing that, knowing that those people were there because of what they've heard, which was the Lord's getting ready to give them this land that they're currently on. And so I think there's all kinds of thoughts and feelings here when it comes to how this battle's playing out. And it also goes to show that Joshua was telling them exactly what the Lord had commanded, and the people were following through. Let's continue to read. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord and blowing the trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the second day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the seventh day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except that on that day they circled the city 7 times. The seventh time around, when the priest sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." The city and all that is in it are to be devoted to the Lord. Only Rahab, the prostitute, and all who were with her in her house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the devoted things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise, you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into His treasury. When the trumpet sounded, the people shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the people gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. So every man charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out the land, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring her out and all who belong to her, in accordance with your oath to her." So the young man who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her father and mother and brothers and all who belonged to her. They brought out her entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. So, just a little bit of backstory on the previous Bible study. Rahab was the woman that this hid the spies because she knew what she was hearing about the Lord's people, about Israel, and she believed. She had faith. She believed that that was going to happen. She knew. So that reminds me of several different things. We never know who the Lord speaks to or how He speaks to them. So I always hear this like it's hard to say. So it's difficult to explain. So I have to kind of just pray about how to explain this. So you have missionaries, right? And you have people who go out and spread the gospel. And then you have different ways of spreading the gospel, such as through online, through social media, through churches, etc. But we never know how the Lord speaks to everybody individually, whether it's a contact, a physical contact, or a conversation, or by sight, or if it's through dreams, or if it's through whatever other means. So in this case, Rahab, she knew of the Lord and she believed. And so then she helped the two spies. And since she believed, she asked for her, basically, she asked for her life. And she was awarded, as we see. The two spies accepted her request to spare her. Not only that, but when the wall came tumbling down, Rahab lived in the wall. And we'll learn more about that as well. Rahab lived on that wall, the wall surrounding the city. And so the only place that stood was her house. Everything else fell, except for her and her family were safe. And so it shows you just how precise the Lord is, how the details, no matter how small they are important. And it says quite a bit. I mean, there's all kinds of things that come to my mind. My mind's just flooding. And so, but we don't know who has had reference to the Holy Spirit. So when it comes time for you to say something or speak up, still follow through, because that person, the Holy Spirit may be already working on them and you just don't know it. It hasn't been revealed to you. Or maybe it has. We'll see later on that the Holy Spirit may have revealed it to someone, and that's why they went someplace to talk to somebody or brought somebody there. So we'll learn about that too. So there's all kinds of different ways to think about this. Faith, deliverance, following through, even acknowledging the little things, the details. So the little things, another thing just flooded through my mind when it comes to detail. Detail, including the things that we humans say little, but nothing's little. Nothing's little. And so, because we think of it, we have to think of it as in levels, and we have to put certain things into levels, like something that a smile to somebody is not as good as giving monetary funds to that person, or some, along those lines, or, thanking somebody is not, or saying something's great and then stepping above it and saying it's wonderful. There's levels to things that we humans do. And so when it comes to the small things, which are not small, everything's important. So let's say that, where I'm going with this, you're in public, and I know, I think I mentioned this before, like, because in some cultures it's not okay to look at somebody in the eyes. but you acknowledge the person. You can smile, you can wave, you can say hello, you can communicate. Those things can change somebody. You never know, because it could be something that they're going through, and some type of acknowledgement, some type of goodness, something, even as little as a smile, can change somebody and can change their reaction or thought process, which can make a huge difference. It can prevent things from happening. And so there's just a lot to think about, and a lot has flooded my mind. It still is, and there's things that I want to say, but I'm not quite sure if right now. I don't know if it's me or if I'm just, I don't know. But there's a lot to this. These are sermons, in here. You could take this and run with it in so many different ways. This is the living word, and it speaks. So, with all of that, and with reading these passages, what kind of thoughts or feelings come to your mind? How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think?